everybody. Welcome back to the practice of being human. So glad to be here with you today. And before we begin, I ask that you take a breath with me in and out and tell me, maybe silently, maybe out loud, if you're in your car or in your kitchen, or maybe you're on a walk. Has parenting ever felt tender, confusing, overwhelming, humbling, messy? If your hand is up, metaphorically or literally, you're human. You're not alone. And you are in the most excellent of company here. So I want to name something right away because it's the truth that I don't think anyone really told us. And when I heard this, I softened and I was like, this is so true, which is parenting is not instinctual. Not in the way that I think we like to pretend it is, and not in the way that I think we were conditioned to believe it is. Because I think the only parenting instinct we really inherit is the parenting we received. And that's good news for some, not so great news for others, but I think it's a mixed bag for all of us. The modeling we absorbed, the beliefs we internalized, the strategies we invented to survive childhood, to navigate and adapt to our environment, to our circumstances, to our caretakers, to our parents who were just figuring it out themselves. That's the instinct, right? Everything else, and this includes things like being present with big feelings. Like, who taught us how to navigate the big feelings? One of the big ones, anger, right? In my family, we didn't do anger. And when you grow up in a family where that's not done, you find other ways to navigate it, right? Understanding that we're all born into these human bodies, into these human experiences, which is a very spiritual experience, as I like to think. It's a sacred walk. But we're born into these beings that have these very big emotions, very big feelings across the spectrum. But we don't have the skill to even know how to express those. And when we have caretakers, parents, other people who are modeling for us what that looks like, we learn from them how to do that. And again, this is not a blame shame game. This is not a betrayal of what we received or didn't receive and of our parents who were doing everything they knew to do. But it's more holding space for the reality, for the truth of this, that being present with big feelings, probably not taught to all of us on the level that I think would have maybe benefited us. Emotional attunement in general, self-awareness, boundaries. Like, what are even boundaries? Most people don't understand boundaries and they think, I can't do that because that might hurt the person that I'm in relationship with, or it might disconnect us, right? Healthy boundaries help us have healthy relationships. And a boundary is, hey, when you say or do this thing, this is how I'm going to tend to and take care of me. This is how I'm going to respond to that situation or circumstance. It's not a, you need to do this and be this in order for me to be okay. It's more of, how do I love and care for me in light of what is? So boundaries being one of those things that are not so instinctual for us. Co-regulation, right? Co-regulation when we have nervous systems that get dysregulated, which I happen to have a dysregulated nervous system on, I think, more of a consistent basis than I ever would have imagined or understood or had conscious awareness around. But my anxiety is pretty high. And my need for things to keep going as they were, if there was an upset or disruption, it was making sure that we got back on track. That would entail some manipulation and control, which didn't allow for the ability to calm and soothe and regulate myself, my kids, right, in the way that I would have wanted to do. So again, not instinctual for me, but something that I certainly have been learning and am continuing to learn and will continue to learn how to do today. And then repair. Repair was not something that many of us were past. So repair isn't so instinctual, right? Rupture is just inherent to relationships. especially relationships that are worth their salt with substance, we're going to have ruptures with others being separate beings, right? Who have separate thoughts, feelings, actions, and values. To consider that we just know how to repair is again something that needs to be taught, needs to be learned, needs to be modeled. And repair is circling back and saying, hey, you know what? I misstepped here. Or, hey, my yelling at you, that had nothing to do with you. And I'm really sorry. Whatever you felt, you had every right to feel what you felt. And my actions, my behavior wasn't commensurate with and wasn't fair to what was at hand. And you know what? I'm presently working on that. I'm presently working on being a little bit more regulated and less reactive and working on not yelling so much, for instance, right? Repair is a beautiful relationship tool, but it's not something that many of us have learned how to do. All of these things are learned. So, best news, I mean, we can learn them, right? But many of us think that this should just be something we know. And I just want to offer, like, no, we shouldn't know this unless we were modeled it, which not many of us were, right? To the degree that I think all of us want to grow into. The beautiful thing about learning is it requires humility and presence, right? And a willingness to reparent the little one inside of us. As we parent the little one standing in front of us, we can also parent the one that is standing in front of us. Okay? So, my friends, we are literally learning an entirely new skill set while trying to steady and support and be sturdy enough to allow another human being to push up against us, to know they are held, to know that they're safe, to know that they are enough. They're always enough, right? And that my behaviors are not about them, right? My yelling isn't about them. And yet, that's what we do as little people. We make it about us because that's our coping strategy. It's self blame. We're really good at it. And it's an important skill at that point in time because guess what? If we blame ourselves, then we can look at our parents and the world, the outside world, as a safe place, that they're good. There's just something wrong with us. Instead of being able to say, hey, wait a minute, that's really messed up. And that is absolutely not mine to own. We don't have that capacity as little people. And it doesn't feel safe because then we look at our parents and we're like, they don't really know what they're doing. And so the safety around and the brilliance that we have as little people to adapt to all of these things and make it mean something about us, although not in our greatest service as we go forward in life, it certainly served us as little people. Okay. As I always say, and I mean this so wholeheartedly, this walk as a human, this walk as parents, it's the holy walk of what it is to meet ourselves and our young people. And if this feels hard, which join the club, and oh my God, does it ever? Sometimes I think it's going to get easier. I absolutely love being a mom, and I love being a human in this life. The more I learn, the better I am able to hold the paradox of that, the and in all of it. But I still sometimes am like, seriously? I mean, I just keep on learning, and my kids keep coming back around. Ironically, I think the sturdier I become, they come back around more with like, hey, and by the way, you didn't do this so well, because they know I can hold it, right? Just so good. If this feels hard, just understand it's because you're carrying almost this sense of two lives at once. Your child's development, their spiritual, emotional, physical development, right? And then your own development, redevelopment, your own growth. Both matter, both are sacred, and both require, I think, that sense of really holding space and meeting them where they are. I had this most delicious opportunity. It was a talk that I gave at my old grade school. And this is a place that I found myself. I was only there for 3 years. And the formation that took place in those 3 years at my beloved Stanley Clark was something that I hold and treasure to this day. And so my children had the opportunity and privilege to attend Stanley Clark as well. When I was asked to come and speak by Tara Grove, who, if any of you know her, she is light personified. She's just incredible. Her energy, her enthusiasm, her gift. And she is the head of the middle school there. And she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I would love to have you come and speak to the parents here." And originally, we talked about speaking to the parents maybe in the upper grades. But then as things unfolded, it started to be that I ended up meeting with the parents from preschool through eighth grade. And so you can imagine that covers a lot of land and space in terms of parenting. But the common theme that we talked about was sturdy parenting. And so that's really going to be woven in through today. I really am sharing much of what I did with my parents at Clark on this very topic. But I think all of us need refreshers, requiring more understanding and growth and regrowth when it comes to what it is to be a parent and, as I like to say, to be a human, because I think it entails a lot of things and we didn't necessarily receive as much modeling as we can provide today for ourselves and our young people. And I always love to say that it is never too late to do this, ever. So when Tara reached out and said, "Hey, can you talk to the parents and we can address anxiousness and worthiness and cover a lot of bases at one time?" I said, "Absolutely, I'm in. Let's go. Let's talk about these things because they are front and center." But these are not isolated topics, right? They're not just something that lives in a separate jar. They cover all sorts of things. They're woven into everything. And that includes behavior, boundaries, emotions, frustration, repair, co regulation, because it's all relational, it's all connected, and it's all baked together. It's one big, messy, marvelous package. So before we dive in, I want to share a truth from Dr. Gabor Mate. This is a man I adore, and he is a child development specialist, he's a psychiatrist, and just, I think, lights out human being. And his words lift so much pressure off of us. And they also ask us to deepen our awareness, our self awareness, our own healing, so that we can meet our young people from a very different place. But here's what he said. And I think this is so powerful. And I know I mentioned this in a last episode or two. No two children ever grow up with the same parents, even in the same home. One child grows up with the new parent, the young parent, the learning parent, the anxious parent, the financially strapped parent, the figuring it all out kind of parent. Okay. The next, so that's going to be a lot of your firstborn, likely, give or take. The second, right? The next one grows up with the differently resourced parent, the more tired parent, the more healed parent, maybe the more stressed parent, the more awake parent. Hopefully, likely, just a little bit of that, right? We keep changing over time. Life keeps happening. It keeps unfolding. And each child, so for us, we have four. And for those of you listening, you could have one. You might not have any, or you could have 10. The point here is that each child evokes a different part of us. Maybe I don't say if you don't have any, but actually, yes, I think we do say that because it could be for those who are thinking about parenting, or maybe are a parent for nieces and nephews or children out there in the world, whatever it may be, that each child evokes different parts of us. Our circumstances shift, right? Our nervous systems shift, our relationships shift. And I will speak more personally on that. I think our partner relationships, our person, we change as we move along in this life. And so that in turn, of course, has impact and effect on our kids. But I don't think many of us really think about this, right? The dynamic in our partner relationship, how big of an impact that has on our kids and how they step into roles and responsibilities and awareness and how we are receiving them and they being received by us, the temperament involved here and the circumstances, contextually as much as spiritually speaking. So if you are a parent and you recognize that you parent your children differently, and even if you don't recognize that, just want to offer, it's true. Nothing is wrong. This is human. And this is what it means to be alive and growing. Okay? Today isn't about becoming consistent kind of robots, right? We're not talking about being parents who deliver the same exact parenting to each kid. So think about this. When you were growing up in the family you were, and if you had siblings, do you think the parenting that you received from your parents was the same? And do you think you needed the same parenting or maybe something different? I absolutely needed some different parenting than maybe my other siblings received. And what my siblings received, I maybe got more of or less of, right? And just based on who I am and how I roll in the world, that either works really well for me or it didn't. But did my parents have awareness around that? Of course not. They were doing the best they could. But I recognize something today in my mid 50s that I wish I had known when my kids were younger, but I didn't. And I know that as I understand life and as it unfolds, that I didn't know it because I didn't know it. And I now know something different. And so I can meet them and myself differently. My parents never had that opportunity, right? And they probably had no interest at that point in time. And that's all good. Here we are. Today is about becoming a sturdier version of ourselves, that sturdiness. When you think about sturdy, you can think about a person who is sturdy. It's a very visceral kind of feeling response that I have in my body when I think about being a sturdy parent, a sturdy human. What does that look like? What does that feel like? How do I show up when I'm sturdy? And we can meet our children where they are with a sturdiness that says there's more presence, there's more wisdom, there's more heart, there's more flexibility, there's more of an aptitude to be kind of pushed and pushed up against and challenged and excavated. And there's a willingness to go there. There's an ability, there's a capacity to hold that. So to me, sturdiness is where we want to go. So let's keep going. One of the takeaways that I had for my parents at Clark when I was giving this talk was sturdy parenting equals staying connected to ourselves and staying connected to our child at the same time. It's understanding our separateness and our interconnectedness. Not the fusion, not the enmeshment that we sometimes tend to do, not the codependency. But sturdy parenting says, I'm connected to me and I see you. I have empathy and I have boundaries and I have love and I can see you and hold you for all the things that you are while also doing the same for me. That's the work. And everything else supports this. So here is a reflective moment. Think about a time this week or this morning, maybe, when your young adult was having a hard moment. Ask yourself, did I lose myself? Did I lose my child? Or was I able to stay connected and sturdy in both? This is not a test, it's an awareness, because awareness is the beginning of everything, right? So here are two examples, and this is for those of you who have little people underfoot, okay? Your kid has a meltdown over the color of the bowl that they have their cereal served in. So it could be the green bowl and they wanted the blue bowl. You, as the parent in that moment, and you're probably already a little stressed and on a time schedule, and you're thinking this is absolutely ridiculous. Your voice might sharpen, your nervous system gets a little dysregulated, a little activated, and you might lose yourself. You might start yelling and being like, get over it, eat your cereal, whatever color bowl it is, you're fine. And if you're not going to eat that, then fine. Just go to school hungry. I don't care. Now, what would a sturdy parent do? How could we meet that situation a little differently if we took the sacred pause and we just slowed our roll a little bit and we exhaled and maybe went to the sink, turned on the water and poured ourselves a glass of water while we're just taking a moment. Maybe we even put our hand on our heart, whatever it may be, and say, I'm here. I can soften. Whatever color bowl this is, it's not really about the bowl. I have a really good kid having a hard time. And I'm a really good parent who could have been yelling in this moment, and I'm choosing to take the pause and not yell. I'm going to say, you know what? That was a really big feeling for you. And I have some big feelings around that too, quite honestly. But I want you to know something. I'm right here. We're going to figure this out. And if you want a hug, or you want a break, or you want to change the bowl color and go get that favorite blue bowl of yours, you're welcome to do that. But we have about 5 minutes. So if you want to do that, go ahead. If not, all good. I love you. And it's all going to be okay. That's more sturdy, right? That's sturdiness. All right, here's another example. This is for, and again, in light of the age group that I was talking to for parents, this could be the fourth through eighth grade. But actually, we can extrapolate this for the young adults as well. So let's say your child storms off, goes in their room, or let's say your child hangs up on you, right? So that could be for the older or younger adults out there. Regardless, the attitude is everywhere, right? And they're pissed and they're angry and they're acting out, okay? Your body fires and you want to match their intensity. And you might be like, how dare you go to your room and, slam the door, come out here and let's talk about this. Or you get out here or you're going to lose your phone for the next 24 hours or whatever it is. It could be the child who hangs up on you. You might be texting them back and letting them know that that was not appreciated. You might be trying to call them back, or you could be threatening them in some way, shape, or form because you want to match that intensity. Because in that moment, you're super activated. Like, how dare they? How can they do that? And then your insides just get super worked up. Now, a sturdy parent here, example of this would be they stop, they breathe, they remember. I have a good kid. I have a marvelous young adult who's having a hard time. And I just got tipped off by that. I got activated by their having a hard time. What am I making that mean? Like, I'm just going to take some deep breaths. I might even go out on the front porch and breathe in some fresh air. As I like to say, it's the heart opener. So it just gives us a chance to breathe differently, to think differently, and then to say, you know what? I'm here when you're ready. But most especially, I'm here for me. And then we can turn back to our kids and say, hey, when you're ready, I'm here for a conversation. I'm here to talk about it. That is sturdy leadership, both for ourselves and for our people. Okay. Something really big that I mentioned and we talked about to these parents, and I think is really helpful to remind ourselves of, is that our kids are not here to make us feel good, right? They're here to become themselves. They have a mission, they have a journey that they are walking, and it is a holy walk. And their walk is separate from us. Now, of course, there's lots of crossover, especially early in their lives, but the job of theirs, their true job, is not to make us feel good. Their job is to feel, to learn, to test, to explore, to fail, to melt down, to try again, to be exquisitely, beautifully human, just like us, right? In the safety of our relationship with them and the safety they're building within themselves and the relationship they have with themselves. Our job is different. As parents, especially early on, we're here to guide, to regulate, to set boundaries, to protect their worthiness, to repair when we rupture. This happens for us when they're little people as much as when they grow into young adults and thereafter. Repair is where it's at. That is the greatest relational tool we can bring to the table, I think, with our kids. And to be the sturdy leader, not the friend, not the mirror, not the emotional sponge, but the sturdy leader. Kids need someone who can hold their emotional storm. When we have this upset, even in ourselves, if someone is reacting to our upset, that only exacerbates it. It pours fuel on the fire. But if someone's able to be sturdy and to hold that and to kind of pass it back to us, but to say, I see you, I'm here, and maybe take a minute and come back around, or I'm not going to be your punching bag, but I also know you're having a hard time. So let's circle back at another time. And it's basically saying, I see you. Your feelings make sense. And I'm still the sturdy one here. I'm the grown up here. If it's with your kids or your young adults, you can say, you are safe. Sturdy parenting sounds like, hey, you're a good human. You're a good kid. You're a good young adult having a hard time. And telling the truth might feel really scary right now. Maybe there's some shame and blame around this, whatever is going on, right? Whatever is true here, there's an and. You're having a hard time. You're a good human having a hard time, and I'm here for it. Setting those healthy boundaries, letting them know when they're ready to circle back and have the conversation, you're there for it. And or maybe there's a hug that's required and needed to help the co-regulation in that moment. Depends. But whatever it is, you figure it out. You meet it where you are, and you take one step and then the next step. The paradox of that, right? The ability to hold the tension to all this is beautiful because it's like, I see you and I don't like your behavior. And this behavior needs some work, right? But until we create safety and grounding and that sense of sturdiness, we probably don't have a lot of room for that yet. So let's get there and then let's revisit this. But this is all modeling, it's all showing them how it's done. Two things can be true, and that is a really helpful tool to have in your toolkit. Life is not an either or. Our kids are not an either or. Parenting is not either or. And human development is certainly not either or. It's both. Something I think this is true for all of us across the board, especially for those of you listening, because I think you probably relate to this around perfectionism. It's a real thing, right? For us. And I think we just naturally pass this to our children. And I remember thinking I wasn't a perfectionist. And I realized, oh, but I am. And then I became, as I like to think about, the recovering perfectionist. And now I like to say that I don't identify as a perfectionist or a recovering perfectionist. I identify as a human who's learning what it is to not lean into perfection, but to hold all of it, to be able to have perspective. Perfectionism isn't excellence, right? And I think all of us can aspire for excellence. Perfectionism, that's more protection, right? It's not something that's humanly possible. It doesn't hold space for what it is to be real, to be true, to be messy, to be human. It doesn't give us room for that. Kids, they learn from the best, right? They use perfection to guard against disconnection, disappointing us, getting it wrong, and not being enough. And where do they learn it? From us, right? From a world that rewards performance. And hey, you make me feel good, then I'll make you feel good. You do these things, then you're going to get these things from me. It's very conditional, transactional. Love becomes more performative. And when we can remember that love, belonging, worthiness, value is inherent and it doesn't go up and down like the weather and it doesn't change, it's like the blue sky behind the clouds, it's always steady. The other stuff, it's human nature, it's human behavior, it's a nervous system that can get activated, dysregulated. When our nervous systems can get overstimulated and undersupported, that's where we butt up against something that can be pretty uncomfortable. A sturdy parent says, hey, you're safe, even when it isn't perfect. And by the way, I love your effort more than the outcome. Maybe it's you can be messy and still belong. You messed up and you're always, always enough. Perfection loses power where worthiness is unconditional.